another week, another guest, another interview, and I'm very lucky to be joined by the lovely over in LA, Ross Allen. Hello.
Hey there, how's it going?
I am very good. How are you?
Oh, enjoying the California sun and trying not to get a
Mm.
sunburn on my head.
Oh, wow.
Benefit. I mean, you are bald like I am. Okay, I
Yeah,
half all the time, but like two bald men, you get what it's like to get sunburn on your
I,
head
I absolutely do. I don't get as much chance to get sunburnt
living in London.
over in London, which currently is very wet. Hello, July.
Is it raining there right now?
Absolutely, it is raining. It's been raining for a little bit. We
Living
have
in
like
LA,
sporadic moments of sun and then it disappears.
living in LA, I feel like it's the like polar opposite where like it rains like 4 days a year here.
Do you look
So
forward to the rain when it happens?
I being relatively new to LA, not really, because I've just moved here from Chicago like a month ago, and so I'm quite overjoyed to be living somewhere where it's sunny all the time. Um, but it's one of those things where someone was like, "Oh my God, it doesn't ever rain here. You're gonna be so sad," and I was like, "I don't think I am actually."
I'm here. I'm happy for the sun.
Like I've had enough. I've had enough storms. I've had enough winters. I've had enough darkness going on. Like, give me Canada like 23 hours of light a day. Like, I'm ready.
You are ready for it. Was that the reason why you moved? The light and the sun?
It's one of them. Yes. No, I feel like seasonal depression obviously is a very real thing, and so
Mhm.
dealing with that, I didn't realize how much of an uptick I would have on my day to day of like feeling joy for. I'm like, well, why am I so happy today? Oh, it's because there's sun outside. Like that's yeah.
Indeed. Okay, well, I mean, great. Any other reasons? Is it something you've always wanted to do, or
It is. So I'm obviously a musician, a singer songwriter. I've
indeed?
been writing music and in music, like parentheses, whatever that means, since I was probably like 17, 18, that I like actually started writing music. And between a complete loathing for winter and an obsession with California, like a weird, quirky obsession with the West Coast. Yeah, I've wanted to live here for like 2/3 of my life, basically. And so, having just moved here, it's been really fun for everybody in my life to be like, "Oh, he achieved a dream," because it really, like, it has been a dream, and I feel really lucky that I'm like finally here. I'm finally doing it. So,
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Did you have everything kind of set up, or did you just go for
So
it?
I think that was part of the reason why I waited so long to move here was because living in LA, I was going to move here right out of college in 2013. And then I realized that like I had never really been anywhere else besides Ohio and like going to school in Savannah, Georgia. And so I was like, okay, like I need to go see other places first. I shouldn't just like jump the gun. And I went to New York and jumped the gun for New York. I was in New York for like 30 seconds. I was like, I have to live here. It's amazing. Um, so I lived in New York for 4 years, and then obviously New York is like this crazy high-speed hamster wheel, and it's really hard to get off. And so I knew going into leaving New York, in my heart, I wanted to move to LA because I had always wanted to live in LA, but I also knew that like I wasn't really ready for it, and I didn't want to like get off of one hamster wheel completely exhausted and get on another.
Right.
And so I moved to Chicago, which is its own hamster wheel, but it's a much slower, manageable hamster
A
wheel.
lot of hamster
Um,
wheels in the States.
I was like, I just keep using the word hamster wheel, yeah. And I was in Chicago for 4 years, and I really got my life together, personally, financially, mentally. Like I'm in a much better headspace now as an artist, as a human, and so I feel like things kind of happen the way that they're supposed to, and
Mhm.
so it's been really nice to like meet myself at this. I wouldn't say crossroads because that makes it sound negative, but like meet myself at this point in my life where I just turned 30 and I've got myself together and now I'm like living the city of my dreams and everything is
Beautiful.
I believe the lyric is everything is coming up roses, but everything's coming up Rosses.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the tagline right
So
for your LA housewives.
everything's coming up just turn around.
Yeah.
Everything's coming up Rosses.
Nailed it.
Wow. I,
That's it.
I'm done. I don't need to do anything else with
You
my
are
entire
done.
career
You,
now.
yeah,
Great.
exactly. That is it. So you said something there about getting in the right. I don't know if you said headspace or the right
Yeah.
thing for you artistically. Like what does
Mhm.
that feel like to you? What has got you to
So
where?
I think for a long time living in Georgia, I was going to college and I was figuring out like what I wanted to be doing with art because I had dabbled with architecture, I had dabbled with fashion, I dabbled with interior design. It was like all over the place. And music had always been like the one true love of my heart. But it had also been one of those things that like I had been told by so many people as a younger person, like, that's not a reliable career. You need to do something that's smart, that's going to make you money. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. And as I got older, I realized that, like, I don't want it to be anything else. Like, I don't care if I'm poor. I need to be doing music. Like, I need to be making music. And so living in Savannah and living in New York, I was making music and like writing stuff that felt very therapeutic in a way that like I'm finally expressing myself in this way that feels genuine to who I am as a person. But I had no experience.
Hmm.
I had no one helping me. I was doing everything myself. So like if you look up these terrible like 2011 YouTube synth
Hmm.
tracks that I like totally smashed together on GarageBand, just terrible, awful quality. I mixed and
Big old.
mastered myself, that are like not mixed and mastered at all. Um, I was just like making stuff up as I went and trying to figure it out. And so I feel like the benefit of living in Chicago and getting myself together personally is that like wasn't drowning in debt anymore the way that I used to be. I was like paying my bills on time. I was going to a therapist. Like I had all these like very healthy systems that kept me as a human like very much in the niche of where I needed to be. And so being able to do that, I was finally able to afford paying for backup dancers, paying for a director instead of shooting it myself with my iPhone. Like I was able to afford other people to like work on my art with me, which has been just honestly the joy of my career so far, to like bring other people into the fold and like have so many beautiful creative minds like pouring into my vision and my work and like seeing what other people can make of it, because obviously like I'm just one person, and so I love seeing how other people can elevate it past what I'm capable of.
Yeah, it's really lovely to do that. Get to that point, isn't it, where you can kind of be okay with sharing it with other people as well.
It's
Because
a danger, it's like
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah,
It's like giving up your child.
it is exactly. Yeah, it's like letting them go and make friends. And will they still love you? I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, okay, don't hurt yourself, don't fall, but
Please
okay.
remember me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, which leads quite nicely into one of the tracks that we're going to hear today from you, which is a remix. So, kind of thinking about that kind of handing over of a track into something else, which is something I've been doing myself this year as well, and kind of getting some remixes out, which I really enjoying that process actually, of just seeing what somebody else's mind does with
Yep.
your track. So, tell us what the remix is. Tell us what that process has been, and what
So
we can
much joy is what that process has been.
expect.
So the track is Feeling Right. The track was originally on my album that I dropped last summer called Cold Blooded.
Yeah.
And it is this very um, disco eccentric, fun pop, um, like quippy little song. It's just like it's very colorful. It's very um, dancey. And so when I was working on the album and I put this song in the track list, I knew from day one of writing it that I wanted it to be a single. And as time had gone on and I released another single called Better With You and another single called Sagittarius, which I think we'll talk about probably a little bit later,
Mhm.
I had realized that I was like trying to shape up the visuals for this album, and I had music videos for all these things. And I was like, okay, well, like Feeling Right has this really special place in my heart. What do I do with it so that it stands out from all the other stuff that I've been doing? As an artist, it's like, how can you make something special that's already finished, refinish it, remix it? And I was like, okay, it's like a really cool idea. Like I could have someone just like remix it and like do weird things with my vocals. And I was like, wait, that's not what the purpose of the song is. So the song Feeling Right is about queer pride, it's about queer joy, it's about being who you are unashamedly, it's about chasing after what you want and not letting anybody take it from you. And I realized, I was like, well, if I'm gonna be like singing this song and I'm gonna be releasing a song about queer joy and queer pride, I should be bringing other queer artists into it. That's just like the natural, like, duh, light bulb moment. Why didn't I think of that in the first place? So went on like Chicago's Got Talent search for two iconic musicians to join me on this track, and came across the absolutely sensational Kira Janelle, who's this like very young, very gorgeous Black Irish woman, got this voice of an angel, so talented. Fun fact, when we were in the studio recording, we like took a 5-minute bathroom break, and she came back from the bathroom break and was like, I wrote another verse, is that okay? I was like, when? She was like, oh, just now. I was like, right. What? Insane. And so I like had her hop on the mic, and she did it, and it's in the song. It's like the entire last chorus of the song. She just made that shit up, and it's insane, like so talented. And so she fell into place, and then the sensational Grizzy Mac, who's this queer, super fun, kind of nerdy, like Black rapper from Chicago. And it was just like such a blessing to me to have these people fall into my lap, because like obviously being the pandemic, like I'm trying to plan all these things while like not actually being able to see anybody yet, and like trying to social distance and do all this planning. And so our first Zoom meeting was only supposed to be like 30 minutes to just like kind of get some FaceTime and like talk with one another and vibe and like see how everything felt. And we were on it for 3 hours because like we just couldn't stop. Like, oh my God, you like that? I like that. Oh my God, let's talk about like what? Like, so it was like just such a like miracle moment to like have these two crazy talented artists fall in my lap. And the rest of it was just this like serendipitous experience of like making this song and filming the video, and like rainbow explosion of joy. That's like what I wanted this song to be. So.
Nice. So it's more than a remix. It's like a collaboration as well.
Yeah, like a rebirth kind of sorts. Yeah.
Love it. Very exciting. Well, yeah. Very happy to play it. Well, to play the song for the second time, but in its rebirth. Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
So let's take it back a few steps then. So you said you've been involved in music, in the music for a while. Like what? So tell us a little bit about that journey for you. So what?
So my mom raised me on music to some extent. Like I listened to literally everything. We're talking like Donna Summer, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Bee Gees, Barry Manilow, like just all over the map. And so I feel like I was given a love of music from birth. My first concert was Cheap Trick. I was 3 years old. I was on my mom's shoulders. Nice. So, you know, that it started young. But,
started
turned into this, right? Like what a great place to start. Turned into this love of like musical theater, and then turned into this love of like soundtracks and movie soundtracks. And then I, at some point, like really flipped a switch and fell in love with pop music, because I feel like it sets up these certain parameters of what it can and can't be. And I find that the creative ideas that come out of those parameters is like how inventive you can be based on what you're allowed to do. And I think that there's so much exciting creative energy that goes into that. And so as like, I want to say like as a 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, I remember like being like, I'm gonna have a band, and like making like fake cover art, like coming up with these fake track lists for songs that have never been written, just like the dumbest, cheekiest stuff that kids do. And then I was in musicals in high school and went to art college. And when I was at art school, and when I was in college, I was just like fiddling around with random, like I said earlier, like random YouTube instrumentals I found online, and was like starting to like kind of play with like melodies and harmonies and whatever else. And I had like I ended up making like 3 or 4 of them, and I played them for a friend. And she was like, wait, why are you not putting these out? And I was like, oh, because they're just like me futzing around, like it's not anything. And she was like, well, you could make an album. And at that point, with like such an elementary education of what the music industry looked like, I was like, oh, well, like I'm not signed, so I can't do that. And she's like, yeah, you can. Like, you don't need to be signed to make an album or to like create art and put things out. And I was like, wait, what? Like another light bulb moment. So I released this 12, just like so embarrassing, this 12-track album in 2011 called Veteran of Foreign Wars. And it's just some of the shittiest things you've ever heard in your life. And then it's just kind of been like a labor of love since there. I've this most recent album that came out last summer is technically my fifth. But I also identify it as my first because I rebranded. I was Ross Jernigan and now I'm Ross Allen. And so
We love a rebrand. Love a rebrand.
the rebrand, the rebirth, it's the whole thing. So yeah, it feels like a natural progression of starting in a place with a love of music and realizing that it's like it's more than a love, it's an obsession. So
Yeah, it's the lover that will always be with you.
mhm. Yeah.
What about putting queerness into your music? Because that's something that's always been there, or was there a moment where you were like, actually, do you know what? I'm going to be a bit more open about who I am.
It was a very, very large flip. I will say that because when this is like a whole fun spin about my life. When I was in college and I released those first two albums, so it was a 12 track called Veteran of Foreign Wars and a 5-track called Hit and Run. They were both very founded in being a Christian.
Okay.
So they're like this weird, terrible Christian music. It's like Jesus is the answer. Like I'm just terrible. So for me it was this obviously like journey of self-discovery and identity and having graduated college and moved to New York and like decided to come to terms with being a queer person, being bisexual. Started to explore what that meant and then released a project in 14 called The Darker Side, which I just took way too long on. I like was trying to be too perfect with it and it kind of ruined it. And so when I moved to Chicago, I was like, okay, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to try and create like a cohesive project that actually says something about who I am and where I've been. And so that album was Palinopsia. That came out in 2017. And that one was like top to bottom about being bisexual. Like every other track is like, she said this and we did that. And then it's like, he said this and we did that. And so I just was like trying to be very gender neutral on the board about like making
Okay.
sure that everyone knew explicitly like I am bisexual, I am queer, like this is not up for discussion anymore. And so it's been really fun to obviously like step down from that Ross Jernigan timeline of my life and step into what Ross Allen is, and be able to like put a lot of polish on it because I feel like I almost like rubber banded from like being not queer at all to like, oh, it has to be super queer because
Right.
who am I without being queer? And so Palinopsia was like very queer in my mind. And while obviously I'm queer, so inherently Cold Blooded is queer, it's not so much about like the shock value of being queer. It's not so like in your face. It's just like, okay, I'm a normal person and I happen to be queer. So that's, I feel like I found the good balance now of
Right.
both things.
It's not the whole purpose of the music isn't its queerness. It just happens
Yeah.
to be a facet
A
of what you're
beautiful
making.
facet.
Beautiful facet. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, but yeah, no, it's I do sometimes think about that as well, like how well, I mean, my whole show and what I do is based on meeting other queer artists, and like it's been so amazing to find this vibrant, lovely community across the world.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also sometimes that bit about, yeah, I don't want to just only be a queer artist and that be the only gigs I get, and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff as well. Um, but then, yeah, how do you navigate that? Sometimes a bit tricky, I find.
I feel like there's also this whole facet now that I'm exploring with like gender expression.
Hmm.
Because as a person, just stylistically, like I love playing around with eye makeup. I paint my nails. I
I
wear
was gonna say I'm
pearls and
loving your nails.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I wear pearls and heels and lots of jewelry, and I do makeup on occasion. And so it's like I'm enjoying this like David Bowie, Boy George, Freddie Mercury, like exciting 80s renaissance that I'm kind of going through as an artist of like figuring out what I want my gender expression to be. And it's I've heard. It's
He's featured a couple of times now. It's fine.
I love it. I love it. So I'm figuring out what like I want my gender expression to be. I think I'm still kind of navigating that, but I feel like there's also so much how do I word like there's so much gray area when it comes to gender expression, especially when it comes to pop music. And so like one of the big things right now that's going on is like Demi Lovato just came out as a non-binary person, and so they them now. And so it's been really nice to like see this representation start to actually grow in pop culture and like relevant A-list celebrities, because we've never really had that before. And so while I can't sit here and say that I'm non-binary or cisgendered or whatever it is, like I think the joy of it, of exploring that, especially in music, is like music is your diary. Like music is your heart. It's what you're going through. It's what you're experiencing. And you're trying to share that with everybody else. And so if that's a journey that I'm going through, obviously whatever my next project ends up being timeline wise, like that's gonna be in there.
Yeah, it's gonna be
So
part of it. And do you have next projects in mind already, or do they happen a bit more sporadically?
I'm such a planner that I'm like I have next project and then I'm like already planning project after next project. So yeah, no, I've got basically the whole next project written, visually shaped up. I know what it's going to sound like. I know what it's going to look like, but I'm looking forward to taking my time and approaching it in a way that I never have before. Which was one thing with Cold Blooded, the last album that I released, that I really enjoyed was that I executed the way that I did the era in a way that I never had before. And so I'm excited to do that again, and like the way that things are getting released and how I'm releasing them and in what order, and like yeah, I'm excited to like play with that a little bit. So I'm expecting either sometime towards the end of next year or like early in 2023 would be like when I'm going to probably start my next era. So
Cool. Next era. Love it.
yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting. An LA based era.
Oh yeah, no, in LA, it's one of those things where like now that I look back, like you can palpably see the influence of like where I am and how those things fall into place. So like being in Georgia, like my second EP was like 5 tracks, but it was very folk. Like it's acoustic guitar. It's very like I have a little bit of a twang sometimes when I sing. I think being from Ohio, it just naturally comes out. So there's like that very like there's like a southern quality to it. And then living in New York, my third project, The Darker Side, was like very industrial, very rock, like very black, gray, like this city suburbanite thing. And so it's been really fun to like see subconsciously, and maybe not so much subconsciously, but like see how my life stages have kind of also panned out in regards to my music, because
Yeah.
California has already like put so much of an influence on like this whole next project that I've got that I'm working on. So
It's great. It's like it's a map. It's a map of your life and a diary of your life as well.
weird how that happens.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. Like, yeah, it's a thing that you'll always be able to look back on and
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I remember where I was and what I was thinking, what I was trying to make at that time. So
Yeah.
it's great. And tell me a little bit about live, performing live. Is that something that you've been able to do? Something you're getting back into?
Yes and no. So it's funny because I feel like my creativity had really spiked towards the end of 19, especially in the process of like wrapping up that album and starting to like shape up what the era was going to look like. And I had planned this like whole Midwestern tour. It was 18 cities over the course of 4 months. And so like I had like planned this whole thing and like had been excited to like try things I'd never tried before. I had just started doing like a ton of open mics in Chicago. I had joined like a competitive karaoke league. So I was like really throwing myself out there. And then the world was like, funny story, we're not going to be doing any of these things. So for a while, there was obviously a very large lull with like figuring out work and being at home all the time and like dealing with this pandemic, both emotionally and personally. And so there was obviously a very long lull. But then I discovered this safe haven that has been Instagram Lives, which to me has been both a little inhibiting but also a little freeing. Because when you go out and do open mics, you're just like one person in a lineup, you do 2 songs and you're like, thanks, and that's it. Whereas being on Instagram Live, I've got however long I want to do whatever I want. And I can talk about whatever I want, play whatever I want, and there's no rules. And so at the early point in last year, I want to say like August, September, I had done 1 or 2 and realized that I was actually really enjoying them, but there was like an extra facet that was missing for me. And I realized it was like the connectivity with other people, which is how I kind of got into this IG Live series that I've been doing, where every 2 to 3 weeks, I'll do an IG Live and I'll bring somebody on, be it an artist from Chicago, an artist in San Francisco, people that were in Florida. Like I've had this great myriad of artists. So performing live, no, but performing for people, yes, because the biggest downfall of performing on an Instagram Live is when you're done with a song, it's just silence.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you,
Thanks so much,
everyone. It's like echo.
Very strange.
So no, I have been performing and I've been doing Instagram Lives, and I've got probably like 5 more of those lined up over the course of the next 2 months. So yeah, it's been really fun to have that creative freedom, but at the same time, like I do miss being out. I miss being on a stage. There's nothing quite like the lights, which I'm sure you understand.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to be in LA now and have like things opening up and looking at like a whole myriad of bars that hold open mics on random nights. And I'm going to start throwing myself out there probably early next month. So
great. If I come to LA, can you take me to some good places to play?
Absolutely. Do you have any fun trip planned to come visit?
No, but when I'm allowed.
I was like, when you're allowed to, right?
Yeah, when I can. Absolutely. Oh, get this. I'll probably just stay, to be honest. I think I just come over and just never go back.
We'll make sure that we suntan. We'll make sure we suntan your head.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Please. Yeah. Or 50 is like the minimum. Yeah. So, and you mentioned this earlier. So, Sagittarius is one of your tracks, which you are going to give us a live version for. And actually, I think you're maybe one of only 2 performers that have actually decided to record something live for me that I can play specifically for the show, which is very exciting. You and Neo 10Y did a little
it's going to be production value. There's going to be color, there's going to be lighting. It's
great. Well, I mean, I probably should have told this earlier, but it'll just be for audio for the show. So you know, you can use all the color if you want, but it's just a live corner for the listener. Is what it will be. So tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear.
So Sagittarius is like one of my, I like to call my songs children. Like I always refer to them as my children. So Sagittarius is one of my favorite children I have ever given birth to. It for me was this weird therapeutic experience of getting out of this relationship that was not toxic by any means. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever been given in my life. It was like this 2-year great co-habitual beautiful thing, but you know, sometimes things just don't work out. You're 2 different people wanting 2 different things, you're headed in 2 different directions, it just doesn't work out. And so I was very heartbroken because I had a lot of expectations for that relationship that were not mutual. And after so many months of like crying myself to sleep and being upset and being heartbroken, there was one day where I woke up and I was writing, because I try to write every day, be it lyrics or music or whatever it is. I think it's important to keep your instruments sharp. I was writing, and without even thinking about it, it kind of turned into this like diary entry, which I generally don't do, because as a writer, I write pretty formulaically, where like there's a lot of rhyming, there's a lot of couplets, and then I deal with imagery later. And so it was one of the first times that I had written in like a very like diary, writing it out, just hashing out my feelings situation. And so obviously the lyrics, which you'll hear here in a minute from the track, I wrote, it's not easy getting over this. It's not easy getting over you, but I think I'm over it. Like, I think I'm over it, and I think I'm over you, and I think that's just how it has to be. And I just like started hashing out these feelings, and then I was like, wait, it's not easy getting over this. And I just like, it just out of nowhere, and it felt very serendipitous. And I like could not grab my guitar fast enough, and the lyrics just started pouring out of me.
I love that. I love when that happens.
And it's one of those funny things, because when I played it for my mom, she was like, I always hate these songs because it's like, you're clearly not over it. You're singing about it. Like I honestly wasn't, but I think the process of writing it and then turning it into one of the singles, which has this gorgeous music video, shot and directed by Jade Marie Lavoie, it became this like therapeutic experience of like, okay, I'm over it. Like I'm able to acknowledge that like there are more exciting things on the other side of this heartbreak, and there's beauty to be had and life to be lived. And it became this like really crazy fun thing. And the song is so fun, because I played acoustic on my Instagram lives, and you'll hear an acoustic version of it in a minute, but the song on the album is very pop. It's very dance. It was produced by LeJean Lewis, who goes by Layered Music, based in Florida. And he is just this sensational Black producer. And yeah, I feel like I've really fallen into a place surrounded by all these amazing queer BIPOC artists that really I'm lucky to be working with. So yeah, Sagittarius is a song about my ex that sometimes one day you just wake up and it's time. Like I keep to quote myself, the lyric says, I keep telling myself I'll get over you later. It's later. Like it's now is later. It's later. So
oh well, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and the other track as well. Sagittarius, what star sign are you?
I'm a Cancer.
Oh, me too. Hello.
Cancer. When is your birthday if you're Cancer? Because we're in June, we're in early July right now, so it's our season.
That's right. My birthday is on the 10th of July, this weekend.
Congratulations and happy early birthday.
Thank you very much.
Mine was June 29th, so we just passed.
Well, happy birthday for that. Wait, so that was your 30th, the big 3-0.
The big 3-0.
How does it feel?
It doesn't really feel any different, honestly. I feel like I've always felt kind of mature for my age. I feel like I've felt like I was in my 30s for like the last 5 years. So just another day in the life.
Yeah.
Another link in the chain.
It's just, yeah, it's a big build up to it, and then it's like, oh yeah.
It's just a number.
Just the same.
Yeah.
But yes, summer babies, always the best.
We're the best kind of babies, honestly.
Yeah. Well, Ross, Alan, thank you so much for coming to chat to me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So anything we should watch out for coming up next? I know you've got these projects planned in the future, but anything else?
So I just dropped my newest single, obviously, Feeling Right, the Pride remix, featuring Kira Janelle and Grizzy Mac. That is on all streaming services. The music video is out now on my YouTube, which please feel free to go watch, share with your friends. It is this fun rainbow Pride experience and is perfect for any Pride playlist. So please feel free to add it. As of projects right now, I've got another feature that I did with an artist named Chris Paulus. We wrote a song called On the Edge that'll be coming out, I think, in October. And then beyond that, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus to really develop this next chapter that I'm setting up. But besides that, yeah, just Instagram lives. I've got a bunch of those planned for the rest of the year, and I'll obviously like start looking at getting out in LA and doing shows at bars. So if you're in LA or you're visiting LA, please let me know, and I'll let you know
Oh,
where I'm going to be. And
I'll be, I'll be there.
you're like,
Like,
I will be there. You'll be
you've
the
got
first
no,
person I
yeah,
text.
you've got no choice now. So
I'm obsessed and very ready for the visit.
great. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Well, thank you so much. Great chatting, and we will see you in wherever.
thank you so much.
Your place. All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye bye. Bye.